Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. I know it's been a while since I've been on here. Um, I was contacted yesterday by a dear sister in Christ, Gabriella. She was just checking up on me, wondering, if I'm doing okay. Um, so I just want to thank you, Gabriella, for checking up on me. It's so nice of you. Um, and she really encouraged me, to just, you know, talk about things and I have a couple of things I want to talk to you guys about today. Um, so I'm going to start off by saying the reason why I have not been active recently is because last year was probably one of the worst years I've had of my life. Like, so much, I would just say darkness, so much um, pressure, turmoil, tribulation, just I've never been through anything quite like that since 2013. And I would say 2025 definitely tops 2013. And I think a lot of people can relate that 2025 was just a horrible year. It's just so much darkness. Spiritually, so much darkness. And I want to tell you a little bit about my journey. I'm not going to go into great detail, but I'm just going to say I feel like through a lot of praying that I did last year, a lot of praying, a lot of crying, a lot of deep, heartfelt conversations with God. I feel like all these things, that I was going through was some kind of refinement. Like the Lord is throwing a lot of wood into the fire, He's pruning the parts of me that need to be pruned. And it's like He's preparing me for the season that is coming. And I just want to tell you that if you feel like you are going through a very dark period in your life, whatever it might be, just know that everything that is happening to you it's not to harm you. It's to prepare you for a future so that you can be ready in that moment where God is going to call you to act. Just know that the Lord is there with you. If you're going through a period of darkness, if you're going through this turmoil, tribulation period, know that the Lord Jesus Christ is there with you through the fire. Hold on to Him and keep giving Him thanks. Praise Him. Tell Him that you love Him. Tell Him that you trust in Him, regardless of what is happening in your life right now, regardless of the amount of darkness thrown into your life. Because as long as you hold that light of Jesus within inside your heart, the darkness can never overcome it. No matter how much darkness Satan throws into your life, the light inside will never be able to be diminished. And it's that light inside of you that will grow and expand and overcome every form of darkness. Everything that the devil tries to throw at you, the Lord is going to take and He's going to turn around and bless you in your favor at the right time, in His perfect timing. And it might be difficult now. You might be asking God to remove you from these situations. You might be asking Him to remove people from your life. You might be asking Him to change your situation completely. And it might feel like God not listening. It might feel silent. But it's in that moment of waiting that the refinement is happening in your life, inside of your heart, inside of your mind, and inside of your soul. Just know that Jesus is there. He's walking through it with you. Every single time that you decide you're going to turn to Him, every single time that you decide you're going to Spend some time with Him. He is there, and He knows, and He's waiting. Just keep trusting Him, thanking Him, glorify Him through this trial of darkness. And He will shine His light so brightly into your life in the right time, where one day you're going to realize why you were put through that. And everything's going to make sense. You're going to understand why you had to go through the things that you had to go through. Whether it's family or friends or loved ones or people you're not even close to. Just know that the Lord is using your situation because there are things inside of you that need to be stirred. There's a fire that needs to be stirred deeply inside of you. And He's going to call you out one day, knowing that what you are going through now is preparation for that time to come. So keep walking in faith, keep trusting Him. Trust in Him with all your heart. He is there with you, guiding you through it, holding your hand. He will strengthen you every single day. He will renew your joy. Trust in Him and know that He is the Lord your God. Think about it this way. Your problems might seem huge to you, but picture yourself where you are as you are, and a camera above you, just zooming out, constantly zooming out at an incredibly fast pace until all you see is space and the world. And then you look as if you're inside space. You're seeing how small the world is. You're seeing that you can't even see yourself in the world. And then you realize that the problem that you're facing is so tiny compared to His greatness, compared to His glory. He can change your life in an instant, in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye. All He needs to do is just snap His fingers. All He needs to do is just speak the words, and your life is going to change. But He is waiting. He is a patient Father. And as I say this, I remember last year, I specifically remember seeing Jesus. But before that, I remember having a dream where my entire world was turned upside down. I was in the city, and literally the city lifted up and turned around like that and went crashing into the ocean. And that was like a foretell of my life for that year. And that is exactly what happened. But through that process, I remember I don't remember if it was like a dream or a vision, and I saw Jesus, and He looked like Akiana Kramrik's painting of Him, her more recent painting of Him. And He was wearing this like silky dark green robe, and I remember He was just sitting in the corner of my room. But He was sitting in such a manner where it looks like you're waiting, you're patiently waiting. And there's so much symbolism in that dream or vision that related to the thing that I'm going through. But it just, it spoke to me so deeply. How Jesus was, it's like He was saying, I'm going to go through a period of patience. Incredible patience testing. Testing my patience to the very limit. And it's just so amazing how, the Lord will speak to you. So whatever you're going through, just know that He's there with you, holding your hand. He's there. And one day it's all going to make sense. Just be patient, trust in Him, and know that He's there with you. Another thing I want to talk to you about is the mark of the beast and spiritual warfare. Now, I firmly believe and think that the mark of the beast is going to be very much related to Islam. And I say this because of what I can observe right now in the world, how Islam is infiltrating the Western nations, how their ultimate goal is to convert everyone to, if you just look in the comments, read comments, how they're talking about Islam and how they're actively promoting Islam, and especially in the UK, I've never seen anything like it. A Christian person is not allowed to be seen praying, but they will allow Muslim worshippers in the streets actively singing, praying, blocking people off. Something is definitely happening. And I've been seeing so many reels about the Mark of the Beast, and how if you look at the original manuscript of the Mark of the Beast, if you look at the original manuscript of the Bible in its Aramaic form, when it talks about in the book of Revelation, and He causes all, both great and small, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark on his right hand or his forehead, and that whoever receives the mark or the number or the name of the beast what does it say after that? Whoever receives that, I don't remember now, it just slipped my mind, but you know the verse that I'm talking about. I think it says whoever receives the mark of the beast will be cast into the fire or something like that. I need to refresh my memory. Anyway, if you look at the original translation of 666 in the book of Revelation, it looks almost identical to the word Bismillah, which is what the Islamic people use. And so if you look at the original manuscript, the word Bismillah looks identical to the word 666, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen what the Islamic terrorists wear across their head. They wear like a green banner with the Bismillah written on top, and they wear like a banner on their arm with the Bismillah as well. Isn't that interesting how it's very similar to the book of Revelation, where it says He causes all to receive a mark on their right hand or their forehead? So some translations say arm, so who knows, maybe there is a slight mistranslation, but I still think it's hand. It's just interesting, and considering how, I think Islam is going to play a very great role in the end times. And I say this because if you trace it back to the roots, God intended purpose for the Jewish nation that came out of Abraham. But unfortunately, Abraham was not patient. He didn't see how the impossible could be made possible, and through that he ended up kind of going against God's plan, and he had a child with that other lady, which ended up birthing the nation of Islam. So now we had the nation of the Jews and we have the nation of Islam. And because these two play such a huge role in our society today, I mean, just look at the amount of hatred that Jewish people receive and that Israel receives. I've never seen anything like it. And just look at how Islam is being praised and how they are infiltrating the West and how I'm just baffled by how they claim that it's a religion of peace when it's the exact opposite. Like, their God behaves in the exact opposite manner as the Christian God, and there's just so much difference. Like, their God says to actively kill and murder people and torture people that do not believe, where Jesus, our God, says love your enemy as yourself. And so there's this completely contrast here. And when you think about it, when the Quran was created, it was created by Muhammad, who was pretty much strangled by some demonic entity where the words just came out of his mouth. That, like, obviously the devil is going to create a counterfeit. That is what he does. The devil likes to copy God, and in every form of copy, it is his way of trying to say to God, you know what, God, I can do exactly what you do, and I can do it better, and people will follow me. And that is exactly what we're seeing here. So Islam is a religion where the devil tried to copy God, but he twisted it. He twisted the religion, he twisted their beliefs, and there are things in the Quran that are very like, I haven't read it myself, but I have just seen a couple of verses here and there when I did some research, where it mentions that they are going to bring a beast out of the earth. They are going to bring a beast out of the earth that's going to speak unto the nations. What does the Bible say? The Bible says in of Revelation that a beast is going to rise out of the earth that is going to talk to the nations. So it's just starting to link up. Everything that I'm seeing is pointing more and more and more towards Islam as being the dominant world religion when end time prophecy starts to come into fulfillment. And I say this because if you look at the word Bismillah, it is blasphemy against God. And they even have the swords in the name, and they like to behead people for the crimes they commit, or for not converting to Islam, or even if you convert to another religion from Islam, they will kill you, they will behead you. That's what they do. And that's what the Revelation talks about. It says that when people it says that there will be so much death. When the Bible talks about the great amount of people, the multitude of people that came out of the Great Tribulation. And obviously it's going to, because people are going to die, because, people's eyes are going to be open. They're not going to take the mark of the beast, obviously. A lot of people will. But a great multitude's eyes are going to open. They're going to see the things for what it truly is. And just more and more things are pointing towards Islam as being, the end time religion, because it just makes sense. Obviously, the devil wants to take what he created and accentuate it across the entire globe. So you know, I read this story yesterday, this amazing story about this man. He was a devout Muslim. He had a blog, like a channel of 50,000 followers, always denouncing Christianity, finding any way that he can denounce Christianity in any way possible. You know, denouncing the Trinity, the Jesus dying on the cross. Why would God, you know, send his son to die on the cross, sacrifice his son, and all that? You know, it is the same kind of mindset that most Muslim people have. And so one day he just decided he's going to stand in front of a church, and he's going to record and just, you know, openly denounce Christianity, the church, and everything to do with Jesus, Jesus dying on the cross, the Trinity. And as he was standing in front of the church, you know, holding his camera with his stick, you know, he was like, he just started denouncing Christianity and all that. He started mocking it, and he said every single time that he started mocking God and mocking Jesus and Christianity, it's like there was this thing inside of him. He felt like it was being fueled, like it was becoming more provocative, and he would start saying more provocative things, and he was starting to talk about, you know, he was like saying more worse things about Christianity. Like if he said, it felt like pride, and it just fueled him more and more. Like there was some kind of thing inside of him that was enjoying, like, actively mocking God and actively, you know, speaking against Christianity, to the point where, like, he felt powerful, you know. And he says in that very same moment his life completely changed forever. He was, you know, busy video recording, and then all of a sudden he was saying things like, you know, denouncing Jesus, denouncing God, and he was saying that, you know, everyone that follows Jesus is they're going to be led straight to hell. And he said in that moment his stick handle holding the camera became flaming hot, and he says it felt like he was unable to move, and he was unable to let go, and he said it was like concrete. He was like stuck, unable to move his feet at all. And then all of a sudden his camera started sparking with like all different kinds of sparks everywhere, and in that very moment his camera exploded. It exploded into such a huge explosion, so much that it sent a shockwave that thrusted him backwards. And he says that explosion was so massive, it came out of nowhere. That explosion was so massive that he's pretty sure that it incinerated the memory card that was in the camera, because he couldn't find it. He said there were so many pieces of the camera scattered everywhere. He was unable to actually find all the pieces of the camera. He says that in that moment it was so surreal. It's as if, he said, it felt like Jesus was actively there. He felt a presence there. He felt like God was there. He felt Jesus standing there. He was trying to recollect his thoughts on what just happened, and inside of him it was as if he felt this voice telling him that, you know, Jesus and Christianity is real. And, you know, because of there was this explosion, you know, people walking by, they were asking him, you know, is he okay? And then the pastor came out of the church and he was like, what's going on here? Are you all right? And the man just broke down in tears, sobbing, crying like he has never cried in his life. And the pastor was just actively listening to him, and he explained to the pastor what happened, how he got to this point. And he said that in that moment, the pastor told him something that really shook him to his core. And the pastor said, well, it seems like Jesus is he says, in that moment, it sounds like Jesus is trying. Hold on. Sorry about that. So, the pastor said to him in that moment, it's as if Jesus was trying to get your attention. And the question is now, are you listening? So he pretty much went home. He had this massive war going on inside of his heart. During the day, during the following week, in the day, he would still work on his blog, finding ways to denounce Christianity. But during the night, he would find himself reading the Bible, saying, asking God, if you're really real, then please reveal yourself. And he found himself on, writing something for his blog one day, and he realized that he's just not into it anymore. He's not into, that passion that he had for denouncing Christianity was gone. It left the building. And he says he ended up giving his life to Jesus. He lost almost his entire following on his channel. His family abandoned him. He lost friends because of his conversion. And now he's started a new channel and he's actively seeking Jesus. It's such an amazing read. I'm going to link the story in the description. You have to read it. It's really good. It's just wow. But anyway, back to Islam and the mark of the beast. I'm just seeing more and more and more information come out as the days go by, how Islam is starting to link more to the end times, and I'm starting to see it more based on the events of the world. Just seeing how people are, in Iran, those poor people, how they are suffering because of the Islamic regime, and how even in the UK people are just, Islam is just infiltrated in the European society. I've never seen anything like it. It's shocking. So keep an eye out on that. The next thing I want to talk about is spiritual warfare, but it's quite interesting because I was scrolling TikTok one day, and it was just this last week, and I came across this one video. You probably might have seen it. Like, this story blew up, and it's about this girl, and she was like a Christian. She would go to church on Sundays, but she never actively lived for Christ. She didn't have that relationship with him. Everything that she did, her upbringing, it was just a ritual process. Like, she wouldn't just, she wouldn't talk to God. She would just go to church and live her life, and it's just a ritual. And one day she says she was texting her brother, and all of a sudden it's as if she said it felt like she was talking to an ancient entity, and she couldn't explain it because she's talking to her brother. How can she be talking to an ancient entity? And she was just basically confused. And she says in that moment, it's as if her spirit transferred into her brother's room, because she was able to pinpoint where everything was, exactly the color, the shape, where the furniture was arranged, where he was standing, what he was wearing. And she said during that moment, she saw her brother texting her, but she also saw what looked like two dark shadow, like snake entities, like slithering around him on the right and left, and talking to her brother in his ear. And while they were talking to him, he was like busy texting her. And so to her, that made sense why it felt like she was talking to some kind of ancient entity. And once she was observing this, this like demonic thing that was attached to her brother, they turned their faces and looked directly at her and smiled with this really evil like smile. And she said she immediately felt fear. This fear filled the room. And I know what that fear feels like. I've experienced that fear once in my old house. Like all of a sudden, like everything's normal, and then all of a sudden you just feel this immense fear. This fear just comes into the room, but I remember like I was praying in my mind, rebuking this spirit, telling it to back off because my God is greater. And in that moment, that fear left completely. It just left. So I understand that feeling of fear, that demonic fear. And so she felt that fear. And I don't exactly remember what she said, what happened. But somehow she was back in her own body, basically. And she told her brother what she just experienced. And she said it's so creepy because her brother replied and said, yes, I can feel them. So that is quite, it's quite shocking. Spiritual warfare is real. And it's amazing that some people can see into the spiritual world. My dad had this man that used to work for him that was also able to see into the spiritual world. And anyway, this lady ended up talking about this guy on TikTok that I follow, that I've been following for quite a while now. His name is Phoenix. Some of you might know him. He talks a lot about how he can see into the spiritual world. He can see angels and demons and all those things. You should go onto his channel and give him a watch. So many interesting things. Like, I just love learning about the spiritual world because it's another whole world that exists in our world, and it's why our world is the way it is. It's because of spiritual warfare. Anyway, what stood out in one of his videos was what he said. He said, all of the darkness in the world comes out of Paris. And that had me thinking, oh my God, that was like, what is in Paris for all the darkness in the world to come out of? What is in Paris? What is in Paris? And, I've had my eyes on France for a long time because, I've had my suspicions on Macron. I feel like he may play a big role in end-time prophecy. He might even be a very good candidate to be the Antichrist. And it's kind of weird saying that because just last year, my dad was watching those old Left Behind series, those movie series, and when the Antichrist in the TV series revealed himself, of course, my dad made a comment saying, oh, doesn't he look like Macron? I was like, oh my goodness, he does actually. That is very interesting that you mentioned that. So, who knows? I mean, it is interesting. Also, considering Macron's name and the meaning behind his names, because he has a couple of names. And just those names and their spiritual meaning is very like, oh my goodness, this is very, very interesting in a very coincidental way. Because considering that he is brought up in a atheistic household, and for him to have all these specific names with that symbolic spiritual meaning is very, very, very interesting. You should look into that. Anyway, I also remembered that, you know, CERN is situated along Paris, France, Switzerland, that whole area, Sweden, that whole area. And I don't know, I've always had this suspicion that CERN was situated upon Apollyon, and in the book of Revelation, Apollyon talks about in the book of Revelation, it talks about Apollyon, which is the abyss, where the king of the abyss, you know, stays. That is where later on, in sometime in the near future, that abyss is going to open, and the bottomless pit, those plague locusts are going to come out and attack mankind for 5 months. So I'm thinking, well, if that's in the same area as, you know, the Paris, France, then that would make sense, because that is literally that is literally where the bottomless pit then sits and lies. And if all the darkness comes out of that area, then that makes sense, because that's literally like a hole into the abyss. It makes total sense. So it's very interesting. All these like things are starting to come out, and, you know, it's like all these little pieces of puzzles are starting to slowly form the big picture, you know. So that's really something interesting to look into in the future going forward. But yeah, those are just the things that I wanted to talk to you all about today. I know this video is quite long, but I hope it was informative, and I hope it brought you some comfort, knowing that even though we live in a very dark world, the light inside us, which is Jesus Christ, will never be diminished, no matter how powerful the forces against you may seem. You might be one man, one woman, standing in the center of a battlefield with millions of like dark entities around you, and still that light of Jesus inside of you is enough to take out that entire colony, that entire army, that entire force of darkness. Just remember that. Jesus is with you. He's holding your hand closely, walking with you by your side forever. So may this encourage you, and if you have anything that you'd like to share in the comments, please let me know. I am very intrigued. Well, have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you all again hopefully soon.